दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। In this prakriya, where we are trying to arrive at the ultimate destination, sa kashta sa paragatihi. There are 3 or 4 padavs. It reminds me of this program on TV called KBC. Every now and then he will say that the padav, there's a sort of a step if we want. We can start with all the gross objects in the world and very quickly reject them as being anatma. Atma cannot be that. That's one padav directly. This mantra doesn't start with that. It starts straight away with the sukshma. In that sukshma also, it reaches a second padav when it moves from an individual to a total, samashti. So that's the second stage of our path to understanding the reality. So that all that is individual is rejected as being anatma. We've already come to something which is samashti, and therefore there's only one. Like even if you look at the Panchabhutas, if we start from Prithvi, Apaha, Agni, Vayu, and eventually when you come to Akasha, there's only one. That's also a transition. Like that, here there's a transition when you move from buddhi, so Shukshma buddhi, Vyavasayatmika buddhi, to Hiranyagarbha. That Hiranyagarbha is the next stage when we look at that samashti and say that anything vyashti cannot be the I. Or the other way around. I cannot be anything that is vyakti, that is individual. So having crossed that, we look at that, and that samashti we often equate to Ishvara, Saguna Brahman. Because there we say that samashti Mahat Hiranyagarbha or Brahmaji is our first recognition of Ishvara, the form of Ishvara. So that is the next stage. But that is also manifest, visible, tangible. And we say, where did that come from? And in this process of elimination, we discover that that also is the firstborn, and the karanam for that is avyakta, the unmanifest. So the unmanifest becomes our next search, next stage of search. Well, from then all the other things that follow after that, we have looked at and said that's an Atma. What I'm trying to understand is Atma, the self, Brahman, Omkara, whatever you want to call it. So you come up to the stage of saying Avyakta, Prakriti, Ajnanam, all of those words we use. But that also, the Avyakta also, unlike the Sankhya, we say the Avyakta is non-self-existent. All this is mithya, arising out of Avyakta. And that Avyakta has the Triguna. That Triguna is what causing all this illusions. But that also has Triguna, all the three gunas, that combination. So that Maya is also part of the same thing. It's also part of the Mithya Jagat. This transition now, the next stage, is a transition to another order of reality altogether. Up to Maya, we have looked at the different stages of our analysis, from the individual sukshma sense objects through to sense organs sukshma, to manas, to buddhi, to samashti buddhi, at very different padav, and then to avyakta, avyakrata. Where did that come from? Is it an existent thing? Can we apply the easiness to this Maya, Prakriti? And we find that we cannot really apply absolute easiness to that also. That is also as though exists. And from there, everything follows the same pattern. Everything is mithya. This transition to another order of reality, which is the only reality, only existence, only easiness, which we in this prakriya study as if there are several steps. There aren't. There is no parampara. Because it's the same satyam which appears to create and become all of these. Having created enters all of these. So for purposes of our understanding, for analysis, we have been going step by step. But having reached this far, we can see that Maya is also non-self-existing, and therefore is not the easiness, therefore cannot be called Satyam, that word that we apply to Brahman. That also is Paratantra, is not Swatantra. That existence of that Maya, not as a separate new second entity, but as a mithya attached to Brahman. As a mithya entity attached to Brahman, which is then the Jagat Karanam. Very difficult to express it. Is Maya the Jagat Karanam? No. Maya cannot do anything on its own. Is Brahman then the Jagat Karanam? No. Brahman is a Karta. Atma is a karta. Then what is the Jagat Karana? The best way to express this is to say Maya Sahita Ishvara. Understanding that this Maya is itself a non-self-existing reality. It is Mithya. And therefore we use words like Saguna Brahman, Ishvara. So this, at each point, the transition, if we understand a little carefully, where are we going from where to where in this last stage? From Maya to understanding that Purusha, which is the only one, Ekameva Advitiya Purusha, Purushottama. Beyond which there is nowhere to go. It is, and we've studied in so many different ways, that will remain always the drik, if you want to use that prakriya. Never become drishya. It is that which pervades everything, there's nothing that pervades us. It is that which is independent, does not depend on anything else for its existence, because it is existence. That existence, Satyam, is I. All this means that somewhere I have to understand in my buddhi, in my sukshma buddhi, that the gross, the subtle, all of them are non-I. That has to be done, unfortunately, in the buddhi only, in the subtle buddhi, in the sukshma buddhi. Subtle buddhi, I don't know what the dictionary defines subtle as. Perhaps non-tangible. But sukshma, you understand. In that buddhi only we have to understand. Sukshma bhuta buddhi. I have to understand what? That there is only one satyam, only one source of knowledge. What a word to use. I don't know if it's source of knowledge. Only knowledge. Not the knowledge that I talk about in this Jagat of objects. The only Anantam. Anantam cannot be more than one. Anantam is Purnatvam. You cannot have more than one. That Satyam Jnanam Anantam is I. Is Aham. Aham Pratyaya. Therefore, Avyaktat Purusha Paraha. And then this argument, if that is okay, I accept all this argument up to this point, can there be something more? The Shastra very categorically says no. Purushat param na kinchit. There cannot be anything. You stop there. Because it is the only adhishthanam, only satyam, based on which everything else is there. You can even drop all the steps. And you can say that everything is mithya, one huge bunch called mithya and only one satyam. So any mithya you take leads to satyam. I don't have to necessarily go step by step. I say this is a gross object. From there I go to the subtle object. Where I go to the subtle one, blah, 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 blah. I don't have to do that. Anything I take as mithya has to be based on a satyam. That mithya-satyam relationship has to be understood as such. that there is only one Satyam. Everything else you can club into one thing called Mithya and take any one of. That is why you can take any one word, which is the descriptive word we use for any object in the world, all the way from Maya downwards. Any object. And you do vichara, we have no choice but to land at Brahman, Atma. There is nothing else. Therefore, he says, Purushat na parang kinchit. It is the ultimate. Sa kashta, sa paragatihi. Our pramana tells us that there is nothing else. In this, because I'm using a prakriya where I'm trying to go step at a time with all the landings in between, I have to keep moving and come to a point where I say, okay, that's it. There's nothing, there's nowhere else to go. Even in your KBC, it takes up to, earlier it used to be 1 crore. Kaun banega crorepati. Now they made it 7 crore. But it will stop somewhere, no? You stop here. That's it. There is nothing else. It is the very adhishthanam. I don't want to use any other word. For everything. That Purusha. So our Upanishad says, Purushat param kinchit na. Bhashyakara says, where we left in the last class yesterday, we stopped at saying, can we go to the Bashyam, please? Atayeva Purusha Sarva Puranat. Sarvam Purayati iti Purusha, because that inheres everything. It is the very adhishthanam for everything. It is not a step-by-step thing. It's not I'm saying that Purusha created this and that created the other one, that created the third one, that created the fourth one. I'm saying Purusha is it, period. Sarvam Purayati. Therefore, Atayeva Purusha Sarva Puranat. But this doubt can again still be there in the minds of people. How do you say this? Because Shastra says so. You have to stop at that one point, which then becomes the very basis, on which everything else depends. That is the Purusha. And Bhashyakara takes it up. He says, Tataha Anyasya Parasya
Anyasya parasya
Prasangam Nivarayan
nivarayanya
to very clearly negate, to rule out any possibility, any thoughts that might come saying that can there be something more? Can there be something higher? Can there be something which inheres also this? To address that question, he says, what does it say? Purushan parang kinchid iti.
Purushan parang kinchid iti.
There is nothing other than Purusha. It is the ultimate, sakashta. So if you relook at your Ratha Kalpana, it is the destination that you started out going to. And with all the potholes and everything else on the way, reach that destination. Again, you will see that this funny thing is happening. We are saying that you are that Purusha. It is already a fact. Why do you say you reach the destination? There's again a discussion on that in the next verses. We will see that. But the Shastra itself addresses that in their own mantra. Why do you say this? But here, we accept for the moment that it is the ultimate destination. Purushanna parang kinchid iti uchyate. Yasmad
यस्मात्
nasti purushat
नास्ति पुरुषात्
chinmatra ghanat
मात्र गुणात्
param kinchit
परं किञ्चित्
yasmat na asti purushat yasmat purushat other than this purusha, that which pervades everything, other higher than this, which is in the form of chinmatra ghanat, in the form of, the English translation is mass of consciousness. I don't know how we would translate that in English, but ghana is a word that you should understand in Sanskrit. Prajnana ghana you will hear. It is only consciousness, indivisible, akhanda consciousness. Again, you have this problem because consciousness, when we use, our mind goes to the consciousness that we use in the samsara. Other than the fact that we divide all the things in the jagat into things which are conscious and things which are not conscious, the conscious thing can also become unconscious. That is not the conscious we're talking about. Just like it is the jnanam and ajnanam of the jagat we are not talking about when he says satyam jnanam anantam brahma. This consciousness is the same thing as satyam, same thing as jnanam. Jnanam is consciousness. Therefore, they call it chinmatra ghana, prajnana ghana, knowledge consciousness. That there is, because everything, every thought that comes is Brahman. Every thought is Brahman. Brahman is none of that. That is Chinmatra Ghana. So, Yasmat, Purushat, Chinmatra Ghanat, all in the same Panchami. Param Kinchit Na Asti. Categorical statement saying this is the ultimate understanding. Okay. Param Kinchidapi
परं किञ्चिदपि
Vastvantaram
वस्त्वन्तरं
Tasmat Sukshmatva Mahatva Pratyagatmatvanam
तस्मात् सूक्ष्मत्व महत्त्व प्रत्यगात्मनां
Akashta Nishta Paryavasanam
साकाष्ठनिष्ठा पर्यवसानं
Vastvantaram. There is no other thing. It is Ekameva Advitiyam, Vastvantaram, which is Param to this Purusha. So, Chinmatra Ganat Param Kinchidapi Vastvantaram Nasti. There is nothing else. Nothing else with what? Tasmat Sukshmatva Mahatva Pratyagatmatvanam. All the time he has been using three words. That which is Sukshmatva. Sukshmataram. In fact, this has now become Sukshmatamam, superlative. There is nothing else after this. No comparison. Same thing with Mahatva. There is nothing bigger, better, superior, which is nothing interior. Pratyekatmam. Why it kept nothing? Because it is I. What else can be interior after that? It is I. Pratyekatmatvanam. One single compound. Sukshmatva, Mahatva, Pratyekatmatvanam. There is nothing else. No other thing. Therefore, this is Sakashta, Sa Nishta, Sa Paryavasanam. That is the limit. If you think of this whole prakriya as an internal journey starting from external objects, gross objects to subtle objects to mind to senses to mind to buddhi to samashti buddhi in terms of mahat, that in terms going into prakriti, and then right inside. There is no inside outside. When Brahma is concerned, there cannot be inside outside, nothing relative. But there's a prakriya that we're using to try and understand this. Swakashta, Nishta, Parivasanam. Atrahi, Indriyebhya Arabhya, Sukshvatvat Adi, Parisamaptihi. Starting from here in this mantra, we start from the Sukshma. Sukshma, Indriya. And then keep going inward, inward, inward. And Sukshmatvadi. Sukshmatvadi means Adi. Sukshma, all the three factors that we've been talking about. Sukshma, Mahat, and Pratyekatma. So, Sukshmatvadi Parisamaptihi. That's the end of that. There is no further place to go. Parisamaptihi. Atayeva. Atayeva cha. Gantrunam. Sarvagatimatam. Samsarinam. Para Prakrishta Gatihi. Therefore, in this samsara, we are all samsaris trying to get somewhere. We are all journeymen. The best of us go to lokas and come back. Ihaloka, Paraloka, Gami. Gantrunam Sarva Gatimatam Samsarinam. Samsari is a Gantru, is a goer. Keeps going. In this Jagat, we keep going from one Ichha to another Ichha, one achievement to another achievement, and then we go to one Loka to another Loka, come back, go to another Loka. So this Gantru, we are all Gantru, the journeymen. Sarva Gatimatam, same meaning. Samsarinam. We are all initially get into the samsara from where we have the opportunity of getting out, escaping. Because we are born human with that capacity. So Gantrinam, Sarvagatimatam, Samsarinam, Sa Para Prakrishta Gatihi. That is the end of our journey. Whole thing started with the imagery of the Ratha, therefore going somewhere. Therefore, we have a motive force in the form of horsepower. We have controls in the form of the reins and in the form of the Sarathi. We have the Sharira in the form of the Ratha, and we are sitting inside. We're trying to go somewhere. And we earlier saw where we want to go. Purusha, Brahma Padam, Vishnu Padam. This is the end. That Prakashta Gatihi, the last point from where we didn't go anywhere. Okay, then what happens? Can you come back? Having gone there to the last point, in near, what is that place? One of the Char Dham, the last village of India. Beyond, if you cross that, called Mana. If you cross that, you go to China. Of course, they won't allow you to go. But you go there and you come back, no? From the village Mana, you come back to wherever you started from. Will that happen here also? Will you go there to this Kashta and come back? No. Because it is not like going. It is only understanding. That, what understanding? I am that Purnatvam. There is no possibility of my becoming a samsari again. Why? I've lost mine is not there anymore. Who is going to become a samsari then? I'm not there. That I which I was carrying with me all the while is lost. It's not there. I don't have any more identification with I. Not a statement to make. I don't have identification with I. I just don't exist. I have understood myself as Chinmatra Gana. Therefore, there's no question of coming back. Yadgatva nanivartante tadhama paramam mama. Bhagavan says, 15th chapter. Yadgatva nanivartante, having reached that abode, having recognized the truth of the self is the same as the truth of Ishvara, which is Brahman. Call it by any name you want. There's no question of coming back. So, Smritehe, Smriti in this case is Bhagavad Gita. There are many other places also. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita itself, there are 2 places. Yadgatva nanivartante tadhama paramam mama. 15th chapter is also there, the 8th chapter. There's no coming back. There's no coming back because what has happened in this process is I have, in that Upalabdhisthanam, which is my buddhi, I have understood the truth. Therefore, even though the Sharira continues, even though it looks like the person is the same person and there is an individuality, there is Ahankara. Without Ahankara, nothing can happen. You can't even get up and walk or sit or stand or do anything. But in Swamiji's words, it is an enlightened Ahankara. It's an Ahankara which doesn't really have an Ahamkaratvam in the sense that everybody else has. Therefore, the person who is no more a person, who is no more an individual entity, in some philosophy they say merges with Ishvara. No. It doesn't merge with Ishvara. When you say merges with Ishvara, means that I'm still holding on to my individuality. I am Ishvara. Ishvara is one. Ishvara meaning Brahman, Nirguna Brahman. I am one undivided Brahman. So, where we are going, we should be clear. How are we going to get there, we should be clear. What is the instrument available with us which can help make sure that I get there, we should be clear. What are the elements which can keep tripping me in my travel? What are the ones that are going to create roadblocks? What are the elements that are going to distract me and take me away from my road? All that I have to be clear about. The next mantra, one Nanu is there. Nanu indicates that there is a Purva Pakshi. You know, the Purva Pakshi sometimes come up with very strange questions. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes they come up with very subtle questions. You say all the time that it is a gati. If it is a gati and you have to reach a destination, then you will come back. No? It is a destination. Like I said, you go to Mana village, go to the post office there, the Mana village, you come back to wherever you started from. So if the moment you say gati, then return also must be there. Because the Purva Pakshi has not understood that the individual is no more existent in the same way, although the Sharira exists, and therefore all the components exist, Sanghata exists, but not in the way it was prior to the understanding. That individual ahankara which has changed its character to become an enlightened ahankara, he doesn't understood that. So he says, can we see what, in this, in fact, there's a very interesting introduction that Bhashyakara gives to this next mantra, with a longish introduction he gives. Can we put the Bashyam, please? Nanu. Nanu
Nanu
gati chet
Gadi Chet
agatyapi
Agatyapi
bhavitavyam. If it
Bhavitavyam
is gati, then agati also should be there, return also should be there. If it is going, coming must also be there. That is how our transport department is named, no? Going, coming. In every language we write like that only. Agatyapi bhavitavyam. Agati also must be there. Then katham
Katham
yasmad bhuyah na jayate
Yasmat Bhuyana Jayate
iti. How do you then
Iti
say that yasmad bhuyah na jayate? In Kathopanishad also, we've seen this earlier. Once you understood there is no birth again, there is no coming back means what? There is no birth. We have crossed this whole concept of birth and death. How do you say that? Gati gatisched agatyapi bhavitavyam katham yasmad bhuyah na jayate. So he said, Nanu, the Purva Bakshi is asking, how do you say then there will be no birth and no death? Because he is not understood. Either he is not understood, or he is the devil's advocate. Because we might get the same question. When we start the journey, again I'm using the word journey, please understand what I'm saying. we have an idea of where we want to go. A moksha is something I know it exists, but I may not have absolute clarity of what it is. Most of us start like that. That there is something to know, that there is something to gain, that there is something somewhere to reach. But exactly what it is, we are not sure. It says, our understanding of the Shastra is that it says, once you get that, there is no birth and death. Ah, very good. But why should I not have birth and death? I am coming back here to this thing, I'll enjoy myself. Hopefully, next birth I will have all the facilities to be born because I've done all good things this birth. Why should I not be born? No, go ahead, be born, but you have no guarantees. You may be born disabled, you may be born with intellectually challenged, you may be born in not very comfortable situation. You don't know. If you are saying, okay, all that is fine, I will still manage, fine, go ahead, be born. Because it's not understood. So Bhashyakara says, Naisha dosha.
Naisha dosha.
Very typical response to Nanu. This is not a dosha. Na esha dosha. Why? Sarvasya pratyagatmatvat.
Sarvasya pratyakatmatvat.
Avagatihi eva.
Avagatihi eva.
Gatihi iti upacharyate.
Gati iti upacharyate.
Sarvasya pratyagatmatvat. Being the self of everything. Innermost, we keep translating. Basically meaning being the one of everybody. Sarvasya pratyagatmatvat. Therefore, avagatihi eva gatihi. When you say gati, avagati means understanding. You can also see that the words are similar. Gati is used for avagati. So avagatihi eva gatihi. This word gati is used as a upacharya, as only an indicative word. It do not, literal meaning is not that I'm taking the vehicle and going somewhere. That is not the meaning. It is only understanding, being the self. If it is the self and understanding the self only that makes sense, nothing else makes sense. I can't then say I'm going out to look for it. It's like that fellow who was searching elsewhere, and when somebody came to help him, he said, "What are you searching for?" He said, "I lost my needle." And he started searching, so he also, then one more fellow came. "Hey, what are you searching for?" "The needle." "Oh, I see. Where did you lose it?" "I lost it in my tent." "But why are you searching here?" "Because the tent is dark. There's some light here. I'm searching here." That is what we are doing all the time. Searching because we don't know what we're looking for. If it is Pratyekatma, it is you. Where is the question of going anywhere? So Pratyekatmatvat avagatihi eva gatihi upacharyate. Pratyagatvancha
Pratyagatmancha atmatam.
darshitam
Darshitam.
indriya mano buddhi paratvena.
Indriya mano buddhi paratvena.
Pratyagatvam was shown. These previous two mantras, Pratyagatman was shown that Pratyagatma Atma, that self, that Vishnu Padam is you, is different from Indriya Mano Buddhihi, Paratvena. It is better than, superior than, it is innermost. Can't think of any other words. It is what you're looking for. Understanding what this self is. Therefore, this Pratyekatma has already been revealed. Darshitam meaning not necessarily shown, not physical, not that my eyes were seeing. Understand that Pratyekatma, Purusha, is I. It is Indriya Mano Buddhi Paratvena, being different from, superior to, interior to. These are all Anatma, Paratvena. I can go back there only, please. Go back to that Bashyam, please. Yo hi ganta.
Yo ganta.
So agatam apratyak rupam.
So agatam apratyak rupam.
Gacchati anatma bhutam.
Gacchati
anatma
anatma
bhutam
bhutam.
Na viparyayena.
na
Na
viparyayena.
viparyayena.
That ganta is not looking for anatma. He is looking to understand atma. Yahi ganta saha agatam pratyagrupam, apratyagrupam, not for anything external. Apratyagrupam gacchati anatma bhutam na viparyayena. Any going means external. You can't say I'm going inside. I'm going means I'm going external. I then have a spot elsewhere in space where I have to go. And depending upon where this thing is, I choose my mode of transportation. Can I go by ratha? Can I go by cycle? Do I have to take a plane or a ship? But this is anatma. Apratyag rupam. Na viparyayena. He is not going in the opposite direction. He is actually, any gati means going outward. Therefore, this gati that we are talking about here is avagati, not going by any physical means. Tatha cha
तथा च
Shrutihi
श्रुतिः
Anagvaga
Anagvaga
अनग्वगः
Advasu
अध्वसु
advasu
Arayishnavaha
parayishnava
पारयिष्णवः
Ityadhya.
nityadya.
इत्याद्या.
There is Shruti Acharya is quoting. Shruti says, the one Parayishnavaha, the one who wants to go beyond samsara. This is another Upanishad called Itihasa Upanishad. Parayishnavaha, the one who wants to go beyond samsara. Samsara param gantaraha ityataha. That person, that traveler, advasuhu, anagvaga, doesn't need to take any path. Advaga is a traveler. Advan is road. So Anadvaga is the traveler, the goer. He doesn't have to take any path. You want to go beyond samsara, you don't need a path. We use the word path in many ways. Nanya pantha advayanaya vidyate In that sense, there is no other method than Shravana Manana Nidhyasanam, understanding, jnanam. But path also means road. The physical road, we will take a designated vahanam to go. But he doesn't have to do that. So he quotes the Shruti. Tathacha Shrutihi anagbaga advasu paraishnavaha ityadya. Like that, there are others also, he says, which will tell us. Tathacha
तथा च
darshayati
दर्शयति
pratyagatmatvam
प्रत्यगात्मत्वं
sarvasya
सर्वस्य
sarvasya pratyagatmatvam, being the self of everything, being the Atma of everything, is shown by this. Darshayati. So you cannot say, the objection was what? That if you have to go, they will come back. Any going implies coming back. There is a possibility of coming back. And here we are saying, Yadgatvana nivartante. That Dhamma is one where, having reached, therefore you have to understand what that word reach, Gatva means what? You're not physically going someplace and saying, I've reached that place and therefore I won't come back. No. I have reached the understanding. Gati is avagati. I have reached the understanding of the self as satyam, as jnanam, as anantam, as pratyagatma. Once that understanding is there, then nothing else really is any value. Once that is known, there's nothing else to know. Therefore, to say this kind of an objection raised by the Purvapakshi, saying that if you say gati chet agatyapi bhavitavyam, there must be a return path. No. There is no return path because there is no physical going. That's why I said, no, when you have this various steps with the landings and padav in between, it is not that they are steps, it is only for our clarity of understanding. Otherwise, there is only one vastu which forms the adhisthana for everything. Everything, every being, non-being, there is only one Atma which sustains them. Therefore, you'll see the word sarvasya here very often. In fact, later it talks about this. For everything, there is only one Atma. You know, we gave that example, if you remember, of Angavastram. For with the Atma is the fabric, for with the Atma is the yarn, for with the Atma is the fiber, etc., etc. But no, ultimately there is only one. It's the Atma for everything. Even when we say that Akasha came first, Akashat Vayuhu, Vayor Agnihi, Agner Apaha, Apah Prithvi, and then Oshadhi, etc., etc. Even there, the understanding must be that there is only one Brahman. From there, all of these came. One way of looking at it is saying, from there came Akasha, because Akasha within these is the Sukshmatvat. So you can say that from that Brahman and Akasha came Vayu. You can say from that Brahman and Akasha and Vayu came Agni. Model. From that Brahman and Akasha and Vayu and Agni came Apaha. And from that Akasha, from that Brahman and Akasha and Vayu and Agni and Apaha came Prithvi. This is also justified because you can see that the properties that we know, Akasha is Shabda. By the time we come to Prithvi, it has all five. There, this kind of understanding is justified. So, there is only one Vastu, no other Vastu. That Vastu, these source of everything, all Mithya products. Again, we talk about saying from that came Maya, and from Maya, all the three gunas came, from the gunas came all the products, and then we have the Sukshma part, something else came, and the Tula part, something else came, and the combinations came, something else came. That's how we have a model. Our Tattva Bodha has a very detailed model on this. But the real understanding is that they all come from only one source, as though. Always we add as though. There is only one Brahman. The question in this mantra that is being asked, for which the Nanu came about, is, my God, it is like this, then why is it that nobody seems to know? Why is it that, it's a question a lot of people ask. In our own group, people have asked this question. Why is it I don't know? Why is it people don't know? Why is it that if you have a teacher saying, look, I will teach you, I will tell you, only a handful of people come. Even for somebody as with the stature of Swamiji, only maybe 100 people come. On the other hand, you say that I'm going to do some Paurnami Puja, hundreds of thousands of people will come. Why is it that people don't know? Are people afraid to find out? Are people afraid that I may not understand? You can think about whatever reasons you want. But that's the question being asked in the mantra. What is the reason why Guhyat Guhyataram Jnanam? Bhagavan has told Arjuna also. It is Guhya. It is a secret, which is an open secret. It is staring at you right in front of you, and yet it's a secret. People don't understand. In many places, we see this. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatanam apsiddhanam kaschin mam vetti tatvatah. Doesn't happen. Why is it like that? Why is it something so obvious, the way we've analyzed it, the way the Shastra has analyzed it? Why is it that people can't make out very easily? Why is it that people keep asking these questions like that? If you have to go, you have to come back. Hey, that's because you're not understood. Why is it that people don't understand? We will see how Shastra addresses that question in the further classes. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Om Swamiji.